How would the Dragon Ball Z movies actually go in the future Trunks timeline that came back to save everybody? Because there's a lot of differences since Goku died and a lot of the Z fighters were killed by the androids. What would actually go on to Gohan in these movies for the timeline in the future?
We going higher and higher, higher, until we on top.
So, the Dragon Ball Z movies were pretty cool, huh? I'm a pretty big fan, and they're a pretty good topic for discussion, but quite often those discussions end up falling back into the same weird elephant in the room. That being how, most of the movies don't actually fit into the timeline of the main series.
They don't fit into the timeline of the main series. I think the movies have their own canon.
As there's often no downtime in the main story for a filler side villain to show up. And while that topic is all well and good, here, I want to delve even deeper into the topic. Because logically, in a universe where the Dragon Ball movies take place, all of those movie characters would also exist in the original timeline.
That's a good point, yes. So I think that the movies are GT canon. So whatever GT canon is, that's what the movies are. So this is a completely different timeline in itself.
Future Trunks hails from. But the movies in question basically never address this in any way. So today, we're going to dive into that topic. Let's figure out how the plot of these movies would have gone down if they took place in the future timeline. You know, if they take place at all. So first of all, Dead Zone, World's Strongest, Tree of Might, Lord Slug.
Now these were all Saiyan Saga movies and they were good movies, but they're not my favorites.
And Cooler's Revenge all remain unchanged from our main timeline, as all of them occur before future Trunks' intervention. But that's where the timeline diverges, because Return of Cooler's Revenge likely takes place during the 3-year time skip before the Android Saga. At first you might think this story wouldn't change much, and you're probably right,
Okay.
but it would differ slightly. This movie would happen after Trunks' arrival, and due to the lack of future Trunks in this timeline, our gang likely wouldn't have trained as hard without the looming threat of the android's arrival. The thing is, Goku and Vegeta lose this fight regardless. So the only difference would really just be that Goku and Vegeta would likely lose to the first Cooler without even seeing the army. But after that, the movie will still probably end up the same way, with our Super Saiyans overcharging the Big Getty Star, causing it to explode in on itself. You could argue they're weaker so they wouldn't be strong enough to overcharge it.
Cooler specifically captures them because he wants to use them as a base for an even stronger army, so he would completely still capture them. For some reason, the dub removed this line. Okay.
But I don't know. It's not like Goku and Vegeta wouldn't still be training in this timeline, even if they're a bit weaker. It's probably not that drastic of a difference.
Okay.
Super Android 13, however, is where things start to get weird, because we're now firmly within the Android Saga, and due to that, Androids 13, 14, and 15 will all be awakened into a world already being ravaged by 17 and 18.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, actually. Like, how would that actually genuinely make sense?
So, there's a few outcomes here. Would the two Android factions be hostile to each other, or would they group up? If they did end up joining forces, there wouldn't be a lot to discuss here. Maybe Gohan would die quicker?
Gohan would die quicker.
But as long as Bulma survives long enough to make the time machine, even if there were another 3 androids, post-time chamber Trunks would still just one-shot all of them. And yes, even Super 13 would probably be no match against a post-time chamber training Trunks.
That's a good point, yes, because at that point he was as strong as semi-perfect Cell.
More interestingly, though, is a situation where our new androids try and overtake 17 and 18. So then we have to ask, could 13 and the boys beat 17 and 18?
Technically, I don't think so.
Well, the thing is, we know 17 and 18 were stronger in the main timeline, while weaker in the future, being more relative to future Trunks. And as it turns out, we see that same future Trunks defeat Android 14 with extreme difficulty. Then, we know that Goku and Vegeta from the movie likely had a slight edge over Trunks, meaning both 15, who fought Vegeta, and 13, who fought Goku, will have a small power advantage over future 17 and 18.
Okay.
That might make you think they'd win, but now we need to discuss the infinite energy core, because 17 and 18 functionally have infinite stamina, meaning even if they're slightly weaker, they still have a chance.
Because they don't get tired.
But don't the other androids also have infinite energy? Well, that's never mentioned in the movie, and in the absence of any mention, my assumption is to say they don't have it. But even without, it's still 3-2, meaning I think it could end up going either way. Well, that would be the case. Except, even if 17 and 18 managed to take the advantage, they would then need to face Super 13.
Yeah,
and they
when
don't
they
stand
combine.
a chance against that guy.
Super 13. Okay, so Super 13 would be the biggest threat, or like what does this have to do with? Are we trying to see how it would work in the future timeline, or like how the movies would change? Are we doing both?
Man, it would be weird for future Gohan to watch all of this go down. But maybe if he's lucky, 13 would win. Then Gohan could jump in and third-party him while he's tired, saving.
We don't know when Gohan got Super Saiyan, but maybe he got it right away after everyone died in the first battle with the androids. Could be good point.
The future. Moving on to Broly, the legendary Super Saiyan. This one is a bit up in the air. Paragus came to Earth specifically to get his revenge on Vegeta, but assuming he's still able to make his way to Earth, he would be greeted not by Vegeta, but the androids instead. Unfortunately for him, he didn't bring Broly along with him, so he would very likely be killed by them, which is kind of funny. However, Broly is still around, so I can see this going one of two ways.
He did go to Earth to reach Vegeta. I forgot that.
First is that Broly would just go off and start terrorizing the universe without his father to limit him. But the other option is that Broly eventually goes to Earth to see what happened to his father, which would undoubtedly result in a confrontation. And while Broly's normal Super Saiyan form is actually pretty weak, being comparable to post-Time Chamber Goku in base, it's unlikely the androids would kill him quickly, as they like to play around, meaning they would eventually get obliterated by Broly's legendary Super Saiyan form. Now, you might think he would then blow up the planet, but we actually see in the movie that Broly has a track record of going on rampages, then just leaving. So it's actually possible Broly would show up, save the Earth from the androids, then just leave. So, big W for the Hero Z Broly saving
That wouldn't make much sense either. I could see that.
Earth? Alright, plan to eradicate the Saiyans is another weird one.
The plan to eradicate the Saiyans is a Raging Blast movie.
Just like Paragus, how did Raichi even know the Saiyans were on Earth? It's possible that without Goku and Vegeta, he just wouldn't show up at all. But assuming he finds Gohan and Trunks, he would show up and infect the Earth with his destruction gas. Now, the androids probably make it surprisingly far here, as they're probably immune to the destruction gas nerfing them, so they could probably destroy the gas generators and the ghost fighters. But just like last time, Raichi wouldn't take that sitting down, with Hachiok eventually showing up. But unlike Broly, Hachiok would probably just blow up the planet. Goku and Cell never blow up King Kai's planet in the future, so Bojack just remains sealed. Alright, we're approaching the
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
big 30k, meaning we've nearly surpassed mid-Namek Saga Vegeta. But even outside of the power level bit, 30k is a lot of people. So I just wanted to thank everyone for sticking with me as the channel grows. And even after we reach it, hopefully we can just keep going even further beyond. So Fusion Reborn is interesting, because the inciting incident really has nothing to do with our cast, meaning it would absolutely still happen. And just like in the movie, the villains would flood into Earth from hell, only to be met by the androids. In Fusion Reborn proper, we actually see Bojack return, who would be more than enough to kill them. However, like we already mentioned, Bojack was never freed in this timeline, so he wouldn't be here.
That's a good point.
The next strongest person would be Frieza, who the androids would easily dispatch. Meanwhile in Hell,
Oh yeah, because it's not Gold Frieza. Okay.
just like in the movie, future Goku and Pikkon would show up to face Janemba, with Goku reaching Super Saiyan 3 and pushing Janemba into his true form. But here's where things get tricky, because even if Vegeta shows up, he's been stuck in Hell unable to get stronger for years. So even if he was willing to fuse with Goku, Vegeta is so much weaker than Goku that Gogeta might not be enough to beat Janemba. However, while Gogeta probably wouldn't work, Goku still wouldn't be on his own, because in the future timeline, it's highly likely that all of the human fighters and Piccolo would have joined Goku in his training over the last many years.
I started a
I
business
said, so
to do
because
photos
Vegeta
and
went to
life,
hell, he
and
can't
Chase
train
has
and get
supported me
stronger?
from
That
the
makes
beginning.
sense.
So while Goku probably couldn't beat Janemba on his own,
I said, so because Vegeta went to hell, he wasn't able to train and get stronger.
with the help of his squad and Pikkon exploiting Janemba's weakness, it's possible they could maybe win. Or they all die, you decide. Moving on to Wrath of the
How do you die if you're already dead? Didn't they say in Dragon Ball that their existence just gets wiped out, so no Dragon Balls, no nothing can bring it back?
Dragon. The entire reason the evil wizard Hoi came to Earth was so that he could use the Dragon Balls to free Tapion, and by extension, the top half of Hirudegan. It's unclear how he even knew Earth had Dragon Balls in the first place, but it's possible he would still show up, not knowing that the Dragon Balls have already lost their power years ago. Now, while he wouldn't be able to free Tapion due to there not being a dragon to free the seal, it's possible he would encounter the androids. Then, backed into a corner, he would release the bottom half of Hirudegan. And considering these legs tanked attacks from Ultimate Gohan, the androids are absolutely cooked. Then, after a rampage, the wizard would probably reabsorb them, and after learning the Dragon Balls are gone, he would probably just leave to find something else that could release Tapion. So, big W for the hero Hirudegan's legs saving Earth, I guess?
I said, yeah, a lot of these movies don't make sense if Trunks never went back in time to save everybody.
Alright, and to end off the Z era, we jump into Yo-Son Goku and Friends. This one is weird, because once again, how did Tarble even know Vegeta was on Earth? Well, let's assume he still shows up.
It says, Tarble would still show up based on this line, and then Mekian told me you returned to Earth after defeating Frieza.
He would probably find future Gohan first, as the android's key is undetectable. So, he would learn that while his brother is dead, he now has a nephew in the young future Trunks. Soon after that, Abo and Kato would show up, and we have to ask, would future Gohan be able to take Abo and Kato? Well, we know from the special that Abo and Kato were roughly Frieza level. Now, since the only version of Frieza Tarble should know about is first form, that means they're around first form Frieza level. You could also kind of interpret that line as them being final form Frieza level, but I personally think first form makes a lot more sense. But regardless, future Gohan is significantly stronger than them. And when I say that, I'm talking about his base form. Now, could future Gohan beat Avocado? Well, that depends if their fusion is a greater boost than Super Saiyan. It's totally possible, but it's also not really clear. All we know is that they were weaker than base Gotenks. But base Gotenks is a lot stronger than Super Saiyan future Gohan.
That's a good point.
So it's a bit up for interpretation. Either Super Saiyan Gohan is stronger and takes them out, or their fusion is too much for him, and they take over Earth and add it to their empire, very likely also killing the androids later on. I guess we can do Battle of Gods. It's worth prefacing, the Battle of Gods should logically take place before future Trunks fought Babidi and Dabura, so this is still during the time of future Gohan. Firstly, Beerus would probably still have his encounter with Goku on King Kai's world, then proceed to Earth to ask Gohan about the Super Saiyan God. Now, we can go one of two ways here. Depending on Beerus' mood at the time, he would either kill the androids and save Earth, big W for the hero Beerus saving Earth I guess, or he would just destroy the planet and be on his way. And finally, in Resurrection of F, the Goma and Sorbet show up to try and revive Frieza, only to learn Earth hasn't had Dragon Balls for years. You know what? I'm feeling generous. Let's do the Super movies as well. Getting into Super Broly. And to end things off, Superhero.
Hey, yo, what? Hey, yo. The way it said they must have had cut out some stuff there. It said it just went.
All right, that's it for this one.
Hey, yo, what? I said, that's crazy. They definitely had to cut out that stuff. I said, you can tell when a video's been edited.
I wasn't sure if I would have enough to talk about with this topic, but it ended up being kind of interesting. This topic was actually requested at some point in the comments a while ago, but it would be far too much work to go back and find the comment. But if that was you, W idea. All right.
I said, okay, so ultimately, since Trunks, ultimately, the Dragon Ball Z movies in the future timeline wouldn't be good at all because there's no plot. It doesn't make any sense. And the fact that Trunks went back in time actually was the catalyst for a lot of the previous movies.
Shame me? Y'all niggas can't shame me. Y'all don't know I don't give a fuck already. Y'all can't shame a nigga. Y'all got me fucked up.
What's your name?